Well, you did it. You made it. After 15 deep dives into the world of AI governance, we are finally here at the complete review. We're going to connect all the dots, pull everything together, and really bring the entire picture into sharp focus. So let's get right into it.
And I mean it, congratulations. This is not simple stuff, and you've stuck with it through all 15 parts. So our goal for this final explainer is pretty straightforward. We're going to pull all those threads together. By the end, you won't just see the individual puzzle pieces, you'll see the entire finished puzzle of AI governance.
Okay, so before we dive in, just the quick but really important disclaimer. Everything we're about to cover is a review based on that comprehensive research report from Virtualization Options LLC. Now remember, this is for informational purposes only. It is absolutely not legal advice, and it comes with no warranty. And believe it or not, as deep as we've gone, we've really only scratched the surface of what's in that full report. So, to make sense of all 15 chapters, we've bundled them into 5 big themes. We'll start with the foundations of governance. Then we'll jump into rules and communication. After that, it's measuring and engaging, then resources and values, and finally, we will wrap it all up with synthesis and the future. All right, let's start right at the beginning with the foundational ideas we covered way back in chapters 1, 2, and 3. This is really where we first saw that core divide, that fundamental split in thinking that honestly shapes everything else we're going to talk about. The absolute heart of the matter, which we dug into in chapter 2, is this deep conflict in core philosophy. You've got the shareholder value model on one side, where everything is driven by financial returns, ROI, and keeping liability as low as possible. And on the other side, you've got the customer-focused model, which is built on the belief that real sustainable value comes from customer trust and long-term relationships. This one distinction, it's the lens through which every single other decision is made. So, how does that play out when we talk about risk? Well, in Chapter 3, we saw that for the shareholder value model, risk is all about things you can count. It's about quantifiable financial exposure, things like litigation costs, regulatory fines, even reputation. And this is key, only when that reputational hit can be translated directly into a loss on the bottom line. If you can't put a dollar sign on it, it's just not a top priority. And bam, here's the contrast. The customer-focused approach, which we also covered in Chapter 3, prioritizes those intangible but absolutely critical assets. For them, the biggest risks are things like losing customer trust, a degrading customer experience, or major concerns about fairness and bias. So the big takeaway here is this. If you understand what a company is afraid of losing, you understand what they truly value. Is it their bottom line, or is it their relationship with you? Okay, let's move on to our next section and see how this all connects. We're looking at chapters 4 through 6 now. This is all about how these two different models create rules and talk about their AI systems, especially when it comes to data, privacy, and being transparent. In chapters 4 and 5, we really saw this split play out with data and compliance. The shareholder model sees data as an asset to be squeezed for every drop of value, and compliance is just a legal hurdle to clear with the least effort possible. But the customer-focused model, totally different. They build their data rules on a foundation of trust, and their goal isn't just to meet the minimum standards, but to go above and beyond to prove their commitment. Now, this slide from Chapter 6 is so revealing because it visually shows you what each side prioritizes when it comes to transparency. Look at that. Customer-focused organizations put their resources into making AI understandable for actual customers. The shareholder-focused model, they prioritize internal audit trails. It really boils down to this. One explains to protect itself, while the other explains to empower its users. It's defensibility versus actual understanding. Which brings us neatly to our third theme, covering chapters 7 to 9. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of governance. How do you measure success? Who gets to have a say? And at the end of the day, who gets to make the final call? You know, there's a saying, what gets measured gets managed. And as we saw in Chapter 7, this table proves it. The shareholder value scorecard is just loaded up with financial and operational metrics. But then you look over at the customer-focused scorecard, and customer metrics are king. The key insight here is that their definitions of a balanced scorecard are just worlds apart. Then, in Chapter 8, we looked at how they actually engage with people. The shareholder model is very top-down, very hierarchical. Communication is tightly controlled, and any contact with customers feels transactional. The customer-focused model is built differently from the ground up. It's all about partnership, co-creation, even building special governance groups that bring different stakeholders to the table.
And that flows directly into the decision process we covered in Chapter 9. Now, on the surface, the steps look pretty similar, right? Proposal, consultation, risk assessment, but the substance is completely different. In the shareholder model, that consultation step is very limited, and the final decision rests with a very small group at the top. In the customer model, consultation is deep and wide-ranging, and that final authority has to get buy-in from stakeholders and pass an ethics check. So in one, the business decides. In the other, the community has a real say.
Okay, let's shift into our fourth theme, which covers chapters 10, 11, and 12. This is really where the rubber meets the road, because we're looking at how money, ethics, and people are actually handled within these different systems.
Chapter 10 was all about following the money. And in a shareholder value company, the investment flows overwhelmingly to AI projects with a clear short-term return on investment. But just look at that tiny little sliver for governance infrastructure. It's treated like a cost to be minimized, not a strategic investment.
Now compare that to the customer-focused model. It's almost the complete opposite. A huge chunk of the pie is dedicated to governance infrastructure and to apps that directly benefit the customer. Why? Because they don't see governance as a cost. They see it as the essential foundation for building the trust that actually drives their entire business.
And in Chapter 11, we used this scenario to just crystallize the ethical divide. So you have a biased AI. The shareholder model basically runs a spreadsheet. Is it cheaper to fix the problem or to just risk a lawsuit? It's a purely financial calculation. But the customer-focused model, they don't even do the math. The decision is driven by their values. They delay the launch because fairness is a core principle, not an optional expense. And the impact this has on people, which we got into in Chapter 12, is just profound. In those shareholder-focused companies where AI is mostly a tool for efficiency, a staggering 34% of employees report feeling significant anxiety about losing their jobs to AI.
And the contrast? Well, it could not be more dramatic. In customer-focused firms, where the goal is to use AI to augment workers, not replace them, 78% of employees feel secure about their future. That difference in psychological safety isn't an accident. It's a direct result of the governance philosophy. It proves that how you govern AI directly shapes the culture of your entire organization.
Okay, this brings us to our final section, where we're pulling together the last 3 chapters of the report. We're going to look at the real-world challenges, the path forward, and the strategic recommendations for both of these models. Chapter 14 made a really interesting point. These models aren't necessarily set in stone. Things like market pressure, new regulations, and just higher customer expectations might actually force shareholder value organizations to evolve, to move along this path from being purely compliance-driven towards something much more integrated. The real question is, how long is that journey going to take? And finally, in Chapter 15, we got some real actionable advice. For the shareholder-focused companies, the recommendation is to broaden that definition of risk beyond just the financial, to be more transparent, and to actually invest in governance. And for the customer-focused organizations, they need to make sure their amazing governance doesn't slow them to a crawl. They need to streamline their processes and get better at showing the real financial return that comes from all that trust they're building. And so that's where we end our 15-part journey, with the full picture laid out, the competing philosophies, the different approaches to risk, the rules, the resources, and the very real human impact. And now the final question is for you. As you look at the world, which of these models do you actually see winning out there? And maybe the more important question is, which one do you think should be shaping our future with AI? Thank you so much for coming along on this journey.